Welcome back, Axis and Allies players, right here straight from the nest. It's Wars of the World, the American Civil War. Stay tuned.
Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the spring of 1862 of the Civil War. And before we get into the turn, we're going to go over ironclads and what they do, since how both of us have completed our tech research into ironclads, so we both can now start building the damn things. So, ironclads can only operate on territories that have a river through it. So for this scenario's purpose, it's going to be pretty much the Mississippi River right there. There is a river in the Northeast Territories, but it's probably not going to be relevant. So, and it can't go in the oceans because they're not seaworthy. They tend to drown very quickly, especially Atlantic, because everyone knows the Atlantic is such a peaceful, calm ocean. Sarcasm duly noted. So what the ironclads do, they can move up and down the river, and whatever territory that river is in, they can support the ground troops. So, you know, if there's a land battle going on in the Heartlands, the Union has an ironclad, it can add its dice to the ground combat. If there is an opposing ironclad in the territory on that river, then the ironclad cannot support the infantry because its attention has to be devoted to the opposing ironclad. The same is with the coastal guns. So you can put the coastal gun on the river to simulate the fortifications at like Vicksburg or New Orleans, or Memphis, places like that. And same thing as if it was an enemy ironclad, the coastal gun would demand the ironclad's attention. It would not be able to support the infantry, and the ironclad and the coastal gun would would duel it out, and whoever came out on top, the ironclad wins, the coastal gun would be removed, or vice versa. So with that out of the way, Viper will tell us what she did, because I don't remember.
Okay guys, so concentrating on the Heartlands, if you take a look there up just north of Texas, I do have a coastal gun placed on the Mississippi River. It's right there at the Vicksburg area. I also picked up a cavalry unit and set it in the Alabama-Mississippi area. And I picked up a militia and placed it in the Carolinas. And last round I had been contested in the Appalachians, and I fixed that. So the North isn't in my area anymore, and I'm kind of happy about this. So we're looking at some other things that we're going to be doing. And along with that, I moved my infantry that was in Mississippi to the Heartlands, so it's up there with the militia. And that's pretty much it. Collected my income, and now it's NATO's turn.
So I took forces in Washington, and the two infantry I had in the Appalachians that were hit by Viper. I did have a hospital in range, so I rolled on that, and I was lucky enough to get wounded on both of them. And so I'll get I got those guys back at the end of the turn. This video is at the end of the turn, so I got them back. I took my forces in Washington, moved down in the Carolinas to contest it. I
didn't hit a damn thing.
Still have yet to hit a goddamn thing in this scenario. I have missed everything. But I contested the territory, so it takes pressure off of Washington, so there's that. Let's see, I bought
infantry.
Seeing how all my units, infantry, cavalry, or cannon, seeing how all of it hits at 1 because of the Southern General buff, I just bought just infantry because there's no point in buying expensive cannon and cavalry when they're going to hit at just as hard as regular infantry. So I went with the cheaper route and just bought a bunch of infantry and militia. And I put the 2 militia, about 3 infantry and 2 militia. Put the 2 militia up in the Midwest to guard against Viper taking that infantry and moving in the Midwest. And I put the 3 infantry in Chicago to, in case she takes those 2 cavalry and attacks Chicago. And the two wounded that I got from the Appalachia battle, those come back at the hospital, so I got those 2 wounded infantry turned into regular infantry, plus the militia in Washington. So I got, basically what I did is, with those 2 cavalry, Ruth has the ability to attack with 2 units in either Chicago or Washington, and I pretty much made sure I had at least 3 units in each of those places, so I couldn't get diced and she couldn't take one of my major factories in one single turn. Same thing with the 2 militia. She gets a hit, I still have a militia left. Let's see. So the Carolinas was my only fight. I've completed the blockade in the Gulf. I got 2 frigates there. And moved that frigate down to 72 to start on that blockade. And then on my tech rolls, I completed both ironclads and rifling. So I can build ironclads now, and I got rifling, although that's not going to do me any good until turn 6 when that Southern General's perk goes away. And that was the turn.
And remember, everybody, that you are watching a live playthrough of 2 very aggressive players. I am very generally expecting that the Confederate States are going to get a lot more heated and a lot more active. More to come. Stick around. Like it, live it, love it. Thanks for subscribing. We'll be back with the next round,
Which is the fall of 1862.
Hi Axis and Allies players, welcome back to the nest. It's fall of 1862. NATO's going to start off, and then I'm going to tell you what I bought and what I did to NATO.
What's there to start off? You go first.
Oh, okay, that works. So, NATO had me contested here. I took out most of his pieces. That was kind of cool. Those are pieces that he's placed since then. Apparently I can't stand up infantry. But in that, he actually got a hit. It was cool. It was totally awesome. He only got 1, and I took it on my militia.
Yeah, 4 turns into the scenario, and that was my first hit.
But that's okay. So what I did, I actually picked up an ironclad. I put it here in the Heartlands, just north of Vicksburg and just south of Memphis. I had picked up another cannon, and I picked up a militia. I moved my cannon from one of my cannons from Carolina over to the Appalachia to help with that buffer off of Washington. I placed one of my militias there with Appalachia to help with that, and I replaced my cannon in that same area there. Also non-combat, I got my cavalry moved up, and we are sitting nice and pretty up in the northern heartlands up against those, 3 militia that he has sitting in the Dakotas. And NATO's turn, because he's got me blockaded in Florida. Bastard.
And the Gulf.
I know that. Damn it.
So I didn't do any combat this turn. I got 1 more turn until my handicap is removed, and my stuff will actually hit at more than a 1. So I figured that, so with a handicap, I really don't have a realistic chance of winning any fight, at least not without incurring massive casualties. So unless I have a numerical superiority, it's kind of pointless for me to attack right now. So all I did was I just reinforced. Viper reduced me down to 1 infantry in the Carolinas, so I reinforced that, and I bought another frigate, I bought another ironclad, put it in Chicago, and then I bought 2 infantry and 2 militia, and I put the 2 infantry in Washington and 1 militia in Chicago and 1 in the Midwest. And that was it. I researched all my tech, so I'm getting $4 extra per turn. That's helping a lot. And that was it. Not a lot of action so far. It'll change very soon.
We've got 4 more turns until the end of the game. So basically, as the Confederates, I'm sorry, 5 more turns until the end of the game. And basically, as the Confederate States, really what I've got to do is just hang in there and keep the North in the North. I mean, that's pretty much it. I just got to keep them out of my turf and out of my territory. And as long as I keep reinforcing, guys, you're going to see that's where a lot of, even though it's on the defensive, that's where a lot of that aggressiveness really starts coming in and says, hey, I've got stuff, I'm going to show you my stuff, and I dare you to come up against me. So we'll see what happens. We're coming in on the spring of 1863. That's our next round, and we will catch you on the fly. Hey guys, it's the spring of 1863. The Confederate States are still holding strong, sort of, just not on the river. That's okay. We picked up, well, first of all, with the Carolinas here that are contested, we actually knocked that down a lot. So Nato was down to 1 infantry, and he rolled and ended up with 1 of them wounded, which he got back when his turn started. But we picked up militia that we placed in the Carolinas, 2 more infantry that also get placed in the Carolinas, and a cavalry that got placed in the Alabama, Mississippi area. NATO's going to explain to you how I have completely lost my ironclad and my coastal gun. Kind of sad about that, but just a side note, something we didn't mention earlier, just because there's an ironclad on the river in any of these areas that we can see here and here does not mean that the area is contested by foreign entities. So just because NATO has his ships in my river does not mean that he has contested it and I have lost production points because of it. They're just on the river. And at this particular point in time, there's actually nothing I can do until my next turn in the fall of 1863. So I'm going to let NATO take over from here.
So for as Viper alluded to, my turn, I took my 2 ironclads I had in Chicago, sailed them down the river, and confronted Viper's ironclad and her coastal artillery. And how that particular situation goes, because ironclad versus ironclad hits out of 1, but ironclad hits out of 2 versus everything else. So how that particular situation would go is the ironclads would go first, and so as my 2 ironclads versus her 1, and I managed to sink that without any losses, and then with that I moved on to the coastal gun for 2 reasons. I could have retreated at that point, but I moved on to the coastal gun for 2 reasons. One, with that coastal gun there, any future movement into the heartlands, it would negate the ironclad from supporting the ground troops. So for that reason, and for the second reason is, it prevents me from moving ironclads up and down the river. So with Viper's Ironclad out of the way, I moved on to the Coastal Gun and managed to take that out with one loss of my own. So, while that Ironclad is there, that also prevents Viper from being able to build a coastal artillery in that territory as well.
Unless they come up and take it out.
And that was my only attack for the turn, because that's the only place that I could attack with, equal odds. Still have that handicap, Southern Generals. Southern Generals, so everything I have hits out of 1 regardless of what it is. This is the last turn that's in effect, thank God. So I can maybe finally start doing some offensive operations that won't end in utter disaster. With that, I bought a frigate. That'll be my last frigate. With that frigate, I can complete the blockade. And so that'll free up a lot of money on ground troops that I can start spending.
Right now the score stands 3-1 South.
Yeah, right now the score is 3-1 in the South's favor. Or actually, no, it's 3-0 because I haven't completed the blockade yet.
Yeah.
So other than the frigate, I just bought 3 infantry and a militia. I got that wounded back, and then I put 2 infantry in Washington, 1 in Chicago, and then the militia in the Midwest, I think. Maybe wrong on where I put the militia. It's somewhere around there. They got lost at that left turn at Albuquerque or something.
Because militia.
Yeah. So, like I said, this is the last turn that Viper gets that Southern Generals bonus, and so I'll finally not have that handicap, and I'll be able to start fighting her on a more equal footing. And that was a turn. So we'll come back with fall of 1863.
Hey, thanks for watching Axis and Allies players. Don't forget to hit a squat on that like button. If you'd like to see more videos just like this, go ahead and click on our subscribe button. You can view all of our other videos on our playlist right here on Viper and Nato, straight from the nest, coming at you from historical board games, Z-Man Games, Parker Brothers, Hasbro, and Wizards of the Coast. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next round.